This program contains coarse language.
It's my son, James.
James, are you in the newspaper business too?
I want to be.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Tell us about your dad. We only know him through the newspapers. How would you describe your dad?
Well, different from what the newspapers say and the TV shows. Well, I think the papers and the shows about him and stuff make him look a little like too mean and dark and sinister. And really, he's a really nice person, a fun person.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
It's LA, 1984. The newspaper baron will soon buy a Hollywood studio and become an American in order to create the Fox television network.
Here's another witness for the defense.
All right, go ahead. We're talking about your father. I'm Stanley Siegel. And you know your brother, and of course you know your father, right?
The proud father's two sons are the future of his dynasty.
Tell us about your father a little bit. Tell us the best thing about your dad.
Best thing?
Yes.
Let's see. Well, he always likes to go camping with us.
Nearly 4 decades later, these three key figures in the Murdoch succession story are no longer in the same tent. In 2019, Rupert Murdoch splintered his media empire, selling its biggest assets to Disney and breaking up the family business.
I never thought we'd sell, the TV studio or the film studio. It provides sort of a cathartic moment for all of us. And James has gone through that and decided that he would like to use this moment to go out and do something on his own.
I saw this as an opportunity that is just so unique, right? To be able to start at not too advanced an age, but to completely reset and work for myself.
The Commander-in-Chief and the President of the United States, my friend Donald J. Trump.
The irresistible rise of Donald Trump and his influence over their Fox News cable network caused a rift in the family.
Thank you to my very good friend, Rupert Murdoch. There's only one Rupert that we know.
More and more, the network became the Trump network.
Trump's behavior and the power of Fox in the Trump era split James and Lachlan. And that split really troubled Rupert.
The animosity that this created grew kind of ever more fierce, and to the point where James could really no longer get along with his father and barely with his brother, and creating this situation where Murdoch didn't see how he could pass this company to his children.
Trump also divided the Fox News family.
Who controls my voice? Nobody.
There isn't a day that goes by where I am not ashamed or troubled by my association with what I think is the biggest purveyor of misinformation in the world, which is the Murdoch media empire.
What you saw Fox becoming was an ethically and morally corrupt enterprise. The United States of America gave Rupert Murdoch a great deal, and he repaid it by doing a great deal of harm.
Now the inside story of Fox News from those who were there.
I think that they allowed the former president to dictate what news they put out to the American people. We're in a dangerous political climate in our country right now, sort of on the precipice of whether or not we're going to actually believe facts or we're not.
What cable news runs on is fear. And what fear leads to is hatred. If we don't find in the United States a healthier way to run the news business, we're going to fall apart. This is killing us.
It is important for Fox to report what Trump's henchmen say. It has to be reported. Buying into it and selling it is the problem. The risk is people can get killed.
Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal!
We saw on January 6 how President Donald Trump's stolen election lies provoked an insurgency. Fox News didn't send the mob, but its worst outrage generators certainly fueled its anger. Trump wasn't alone in his assault on the truth, but he could never have spread the big lie so widely without his most reliable echo chamber, the Murdoch-owned and run Fox News. Tonight on Four Corners, how America's #1 cable news network became a propaganda vehicle for Donald Trump and helped destabilise democracy.
Our next challenge is to build a 24-hour Fox News channel. Once again, we will be the insurgents in a business of very strong incumbents.
What better place for a 24-hour news channel than the city that doesn't sleep? Like Donald Trump, Fox News is a creature of New York. To understand how Fox News effectively became the Trump network, we need to go back to its beginnings, back to 1996 and to Rupert Murdoch's insurgency against the major networks.
Fox News Channel, fair and balanced, where news is going.
Everybody said, no, CNN has been there for years, there's no room for more than one news channel. And we tried it, and we put a different viewpoint, if you like. I would say we were fair and balanced.
From the very beginning, the mantra, the slogans, the branding of the company was fair and balanced. We report, you decide.
We've been very lucky in being able to obtain the services of Mr. Roger Ailes.
Roger Ailes was Murdoch's first recruit. As Fox News' founding CEO, Ailes was the network's creator and its dark eminence.
We'd like to restore objectivity where we find it lacking.
Roger's idea was, yes, the mainstream media was liberal, but it was also sort of elitist, and it might have been its elitism more than its left-wing stance that motivated Fox in the first place.
Good morning. Welcome to Fox News Channel.
This is Fox News Now. All the news.
Murdoch's news channel began broadcasting in October 1996.
Topping our news this morning.
Roger Ailes was there, pulling the strings behind the scenes, as he would be for the next 20 years.
The experience of working for Roger was the experience of working for a guy who was a genius, right? But the thing that he knew most of all, and this is really what is too bad about his demise, what he knew most of all was that you had to keep that fair and balanced concept, right?
Roger Ailes came from my world. He came from the world of politics.
Susan Estrich and Roger Ailes were unlikely friends. They met in 1988 when she was campaign manager for presidential candidate, Democrat Michael Dukakis. Ailes was very much on the other side, the favored media guru of 3 Republican presidents, Nixon, Reagan, and George Bush.
I spent more time on his air, promoting Obama, promoting Hillary Clinton. I mean, he didn't have to give me his airtime to do it, and he did.
Thanks very much to Roger Ailes, who runs this corporation, for believing in me and giving me this opportunity. Yeah.
Gretchen Carlson was one of Fox News' biggest stars for 11 years.
I mean, it used to be in the olden days where you had a show called Hannity and Colmes. You had the right opinion and the left opinion. And that was actually entertaining because you could watch it and you could say, oh yeah, well, I kind of see it that way and I kind of see it this way. That just doesn't exist anymore.
Carlson is most famous for her role in exposing Roger Ailes as a sexual predator. She may be the last person you'd expect to have a good word to say about him.
Well, for all of the allegations and difficulties that Roger Ailes got himself into, I don't know exactly if he would have allowed Fox to become what it is today. He did, I think, in his own mind, believe in fair and balanced. And by the way, let me clarify that. I'm not saying it was run better. I'm saying that I don't believe he would have allowed it to get to this point. He would have called up Trump and, said, knock it off, right? And he did in the past.
If we had known what a monster he personally was, we knew that he was robust, told dirty jokes. There was a little bit of eye rolling, but no idea that he was a sexual predator, no idea that the kinds of heinous acts that would later be revealed. Roger was falling apart due to his horrific sins, right? He was curdling from the inside out.
For more than 10 years, Chris Steiwalt was Fox News' Washington-based political editor. He spent much of his career reporting on political machinations in the US Capitol. But his story of the toxic culture he witnessed inside Fox has all the drama of a political power play. The key players were Roger Ailes, Rupert Murdoch, and both of Murdoch's sons.
Roger Ailes kept Rupert Murdoch out of the company in every way that he possibly could in a long, titanic struggle between those guys.
It all started 15 years ago today. The Fox News channel started 15 years. That was fast.
That's right.
That's right.
There are very few recorded moments of Rupert Murdoch and Roger Ailes talking together about the network they created.
15 years ago, exactly.
15 years ago.
And we haven't been off the air for a minute.
The network's 15th anniversary is one of those rare moments. And here they are, sitting opposite Gretchen Carlson on her breakfast show.
So, Rupert, you go up, you get Roger Ailes, you sign him. What made you think that this whole thing would work?
I just had a hunch that, there was a room for another point of view and another service.
But when
I don't like monopolies when I see them, so it's fun.
In a few years, Carlson will bring down the big man, using recordings of his sexual harassment of her.
And of course, that's what makes Mr. Ailes is not only a brilliant man in television, but his funny quips like that, which
But not today. Today was a celebration of his genius for reaching conservative viewers.
Charles Krauthammer, our friend, said that we discovered a secret niche in broadcasting half the American people.
And a time to suck up to Rupert.
Rupert Murdoch is extraordinary in many ways. He really is a genius in terms of media, but more important.
But there were tensions below the surface between Murdoch and Ailes.
Roger made no secret of his delight in besting the Murdochs. It was one of his true pleasures, and he was not shy about bragging about it, nor was he shy about complaining about their attempts to interfere.
He backed it, was always there when I needed advice or help, but really let me run it. Now, if I'd screwed it up, I'd be dead. But fortunately, I didn't screw it up. Right.
Ailes counted on Rupert's support, but he was increasingly worried that the Murdoch sons were out to get him.
Fox had been an issue in the Murdoch family, and with James Murdoch being more and more increasingly opposed to what Fox stood for.
There was a bit of a corporate empire that was built up within Fox News. It had too much independence, perhaps.
By 2016, as he embarked on his fourth marriage with Jerry Hall, the patriarch seemed to be handing over the empire to his sons. After a decade out of the family business, the prodigal son Lachlan was back as an executive at 21st Century Fox, and Rupert had stepped aside to make James the company's CEO. This power shift would prove fatal for Roger Ailes.
There certainly was tension between Roger's view and James's view, and James was much more liberal in many ways.
Roger played up the idea that the Murdochs were liberal and were going to come in and make Fox be liberal. He played that up in meetings and talked about it out of some desire probably to create anxiety inside the company, that I am the one who will protect you, right-wing opinion mongers. I will protect you because they want to get rid of you.
Roger told me that he had not endeared himself to James Murdoch. Blood is thicker than water, I used to say to Roger. You don't know how to do your own politics? I mean, you're in there attacking the son to the father. You think it's not going to come around? It's got to come around.
It was Gretchen Carlson who gave the young Murdochs the excuse to bring down Roger Ailes.
After my story, there was an investigation, and, Ailes himself was fired just 2 weeks after my case.
21st Century Fox, the parent company of Fox News, now controlled by James and Lachlan, handled the investigation.
We had an allegation that was public and that had to be investigated. It was a serious allegation. We had a big spotlight on it.
With Roger Ailes, what we were able to do is go in. We hired an independent law firm, an outside law firm, to work for us, and not technically independent, but work for us to go in and investigate all the allegations, which included speaking to the women involved, corroborating their stories.
And then paying them off to remain silent.
I can't talk about the culture at Fox News.
Carlson's secret recordings of her meetings with Roger Ailes corroborated her allegations. His own words supported her most damaging claim that her contract was cancelled as a direct and proximate result of her refusing Ailes' sexual advances. She would eventually settle with Fox News for $20 million US. There's a number of things that you can't discuss here. Can you explain that?
Yeah, because I signed, unfortunately, a stringent NDA, not knowing that we'd actually kick off a cultural revolution and that we'd actually be discussing now how women shouldn't be silenced anymore. And had I known then what I know now, I would have never signed it.
And that's a non-disclosure agreement?
Yeah, it's a non-disclosure agreement, which says that I can never say anything about what happened to me there or any of the people that were involved.
Have you asked Lachlan Murdoch to release you from the NDA?
Yes. Several of us who have NDAs at Fox News after harassment claims have asked to be released from our NDAs, and we have not heard anything back.
Come on, Irvin.
During the internal investigation, Roger Ailes called on his old Democrat friend and lawyer Susan Estrich to run his defence. He'd already brought in a private detective to investigate Gretchen Carlson's life.
I said to him, there are two ways to defend a sexual harassment case like this. One is by going out and out, attack the complainants, the victims. Nuts and sluts. I coined the phrase, the nuts and sluts defense, right? She's either crazy or she's a slut or she's one of the both. I said, if you want somebody to do that, I am the last person in the world to get. If, on the other hand, our goal here is to try to do this in a dignified way, to try to secure for you the most dignified exit we can, then I'll be good at that, okay? That I know how to do, all right?
Estrich negotiated a departure package for Ailes worth more than $70 million US directly with Rupert Murdoch.
When it came to the terms, I found both he's sitting on one side of me And Lachlan sitting on the other side of me, very eager and supportive of providing to Roger and his family what they needed so that we could have, as much as you can have in that circumstance, a transition which didn't destroy the network.
Chris Steiwalt witnessed the final act of Roger Ailes' downfall from inside Fox News.
He was growing increasingly paranoid. He was growing increasingly incoherent in his ramblings. He was changing in front of our eyes. What we did not know, of course, was that he was a sick man who was desperately afraid that his marriage, his life, his career were about to be incinerated by his vices.
It took us 13 days from the time we had the first, we learned of the first allegation against Roger Ailes until the time we sort of walked him out of the building.
In the end, the Murdoch brothers locked the sick and corrupted Roger Ailes out of the building that had become his fiefdom.
It is completely unacceptable for men, and particularly, unfortunately, we're seeing powerful men, to have and allow or engage in harassment in the workplace. And the fact that we're going through this sort of cathartic moment, not just in media, but as we see throughout all of society and all sort of business and elsewhere, I think it's a tremendous thing, and I think we come out of this as a community, far, far stronger.
It seems that memo didn't get to Rupert.
How harmful has the whole raft of allegations about sexual harassment at Fox News been for the business?
That's all nonsense. There was a problem with our chief executive, sort of over the years, but isolated instance. As soon as we investigated, he was out of the place in hours. Well, 3 or 4 days. And there's been nothing else since then. Now, of course, but that was largely political because we're conservative.
That is a complete disservice to the myriad of women who worked at Fox News who were subjected to harassment and retaliation, and to all women and men across the world who have been a part of this pervasive epidemic. It's not just at Fox.
Friends, delegates, and fellow Americans, I humbly and gratefully accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States.
News of Ailes' sacking reached his Fox colleagues covering the Republican convention on the day of Donald Trump's nomination.
And it's right in the middle of that Roger gets detonated in this makeshift conference room with the speakerphone on and standing with these executives looking at the blower.
The immediate question was who would take over Fox News.
After successfully getting Ailes out, James really saw the opportunity to reimagine Fox and make it a modern voice of conservatism in the country.
James Murdoch wanted to recruit the president of CBS News, David Rhodes, to shift Fox back to the center-right.
Rupert had his own ideas. He thought, it was one thing to get rid of Roger, but Rupert didn't trust his sons to figure out who it was that should run the place. And so he stepped in himself to do it.
With Citizen Murdoch now in charge, Donald Trump's influence would grow exponentially. The lure of a ratings-driven bonanza proved irresistible. All of our Fox News insiders point to a dramatic drop in editorial standards.
Thank you very much, everybody. We're going to get to work immediately for the American people.
Trump gets elected, you have this frenzy almost that translates into ratings going up, and all of a sudden, you know, the president is calling Fox News, and you've got your guys in there. It's really seductive. Even if you've been there a lot, it's seductive.
I think that they allowed the former president to dictate what news they put out to the American people. They were seeing that when they showed his rallies, that the ratings went up. I mean, listen, this is all a money game. This is all about ratings. This is all about the bottom line.
By the time that Trump becomes the nominee and is elected, Fox News has jumped on the bandwagon. They understand that they're going to live and die with Donald Trump, that his fans, his supporters were essentially rabid, and that they couldn't cross him, that they had to go with him.
Trump was a dangerous entity, and no one could control him.
Chris Dywalt is no bleeding heart liberal. He now works at a conservative think tank which reveres Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. But when still a senior political journalist at Fox News, he was appalled at the sudden shift to the right under Rupert Murdoch's direct leadership.
The company went through a rebranding several months later, and we were stunned to see that the phrase fair and balanced, which had been our core, had been removed.
I'm going to start by saying...
Nowhere was the shift more obvious than when two of the main Fox News anchors left their broadcast box at a Trump election rally in 2018 and went on stage to campaign for him.
This is literally like a rock concert.
Sean Hannity, then the network's biggest star, bantered backstage with the night's main act.
How are you?
I'm very
You're
good.
not even tired, are you?
Like a starstruck fanboy, Hannity conducts what amounts to a Trump infomercial.
There's something going on. There's an electricity that feels like 2016.
I wish I had a penny for every one of the Make America Great hats I signed today.
I was speaking to Sean Hannity backstage. Do we love Sean, by the way? I have a few people that are right out here, and they're very special. They've done an incredible job for us. I'm going to start by saying, Sean Hannity, come on up, Sean Hannity.
By the way, all those people in the back are fake news. The one thing that has made and defined your presidency more than anything else, promises made, promises kept.
Once Roger did himself in, standards for conduct for the opinion hosts went way down, right? We would have never been in a place where Sean Hannity could appear on stage at a rally with Donald Trump. It's bad for business. It's bad for the country. It's bad for everything when you become an arm of a political party.
In the decade that I was at Fox, it changed profoundly. And it went from being a conservative voice, if a sometimes unruly one, to being a propaganda organ for Donald Trump.
By the way, thank you very much for the shout-out you gave at your press conference about 10 days ago.
That's true, I did. You have treated me very fairly, and I appreciate it.
Did you take much heat for that?
Allowing Fox News to become a propaganda vehicle for Trump was too much for James Murdoch to put up with.
A friend of your show for a long time.
Trump's behavior and the power of Fox in the Trump era split James and Lachlan. And that split really troubled Rupert.
The animosity that this created grew kind of ever more fierce. And to the point where James could really no longer get along with his father and barely with his brother, and creating this situation where Murdoch didn't see how he could pass this company to his children.
Ahead of the 2020 election, James Murdoch severed his last ties with the family company. He resigned from the News Corp board, saying, "My resignation is due to disagreements over certain editorial content published by the company's news outlets."
The Fox News business was always one that was not operationally directly under me, so it's something that I have to, and I look at it now and I'm out of it, so I'm not involved and haven't been for a little while.
Do you watch Fox News?
No.
Do you think there's ever a future in which you would go back to Fox?
I don't think so. I think they're off doing their own thing there.
It's election night in America, and a nation in crisis is at a crossroads.
The 2020 election was one of the most consequential in US history. Lachlan Murdoch was now the boss of Fox News. Rupert, as always, was watching over his shoulder.
Welcome to Fox News World Headquarters in New York. After months of campaigning, virtual conventions, and 2 contentious debates, we are now less than 1 hour away from the first poll closings of 2020.
Election night is Rupert Murdoch's night. It has always been his night. It's his Oscars. It is literally what makes having Fox Network, besides the money, so satisfying for him. In his entire career, there's something about election and election nights that really moves him. I mean, it gets the juices running.
And it is 7 o'clock on the East Coast, which means polls have just closed in half a dozen states.
Fox advertised us as the best-in-class decision desk, and we were. We called it the Nerdquarium, a fish tank for nerds.
Chris Steiwalt had a critical role on the Fox decision desk.
The news networks, for competitive reasons, developed these election forecasting models in order to beat the competition.
There's some great people that work there who are, straight down the line, hard news people, and specifically the people in charge of the election. I know a lot of those people, and they called it as they saw it.
The decision desk prized its independence, but Steiwalt and his team knew that this would be an election like no other.
The only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that. It's the only way we're going to lose this election.
They had made a point about laying down a predicate for what would turn out to be their effort to steal the election. And they were explicit. It wasn't a mystery what they were trying to do.
If I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that
from
mean,
a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. They cheat. They cheat.
That's why it was doubly important for us to be right out front, open-faced, and clear about things. There could be no excuse at a time where you have the sitting president who is trying to engage in this kind of power grab, totally unacceptable. You cannot then play along to any degree, right?
I'm going to interrupt you. Sure. We're going to make a big call right here. The Fox News decision desks can now project that President Donald Trump will win the state of Florida, and he will win it convincingly.
The decision to call the state of Florida at 11 p.m. caused a surge of optimism amongst President Trump's team in the White House.
Celebrating. Everybody's celebrating. The president had absolutely come to believe that he had won this election.
But the Fox decision desk was getting ready to make a crucial call for Arizona, a Republican state that Trump expected to win. Why was Arizona so important?
Arizona's still a pretty Republican state. If Trump is going to lose there, that has very bad portent for him in states that are genuine swing states or Democratic-leaning states like Pennsylvania, like Michigan, like Wisconsin.
And this is to take us back to November, back to election night.
I tell you, there's some phenomenal things happen on this map, guys. Something's moving out there. But what is this happening here? Why is Arizona blue? Did we just call it? Did we make a call in Arizona?
Well, let's see.
There's a check mark. Did our decision desk make it? Arizona, 11 electoral votes?
Yes, we can.
Okay, if that's the case, then guys.
Yes.
Okay, time out. This is a big development.
Yeah.
The Fox News decision desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden. That is a big get. Politics editor Chris Stirewalt joins us now. Here we go. How can you call Arizona, but we can't call Ohio?
Well, because the races are very different. We looked at every possible way that this could go. And if there were some way that it looked like Donald Trump was going to be able to bring Arizona in, we wouldn't have called it.
At the White House, Fox's Arizona call ended the premature celebrations.
There has been pushback to our call for Arizona to be in the Biden column, and my phone is lighting up.
Trump ordered his aides to call the Murdochs to demand they reverse the Arizona call.
Everybody is instructed to call somebody, whoever their person in the Fox organization. And it doesn't happen. I mean, the Murdochs wipe their hands of this, can't do anything about it. And then it goes into the shift of other people in the Trump circle starts to play out, with Rudy Giuliani starting to talk about, they're trying to steal this from you. And suddenly he has Trump's ear.
Were you asked by any of your superiors to reconsider the decision?
No one who was my superior, I received no instruction to reverse the call.
Was there a consideration?
There was a lot of question, right? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Oh my gosh, are you sure? But there was not, reverse this, you must reverse this. It wasn't that. It was, are you sure, 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 sure?
Wasn't there an executive who said that you should stop making calls?
I'm not going to talk about that stuff.
Trump, meanwhile, was obsessing about the role of the Murdochs.
There were a couple of things going on. I mean, first, a sense that he was being fucked by them. And he has always had this weird thing with Fox, in which he had kind of come to believe that they owed him. Fox was a success because of him. So this was a double kind of disloyalty. There were forces aligning against him to keep him from winning this election, which he had already at that point decided he had won.
At 2:30 a.m., Trump emerged.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please sit. Thank you. This is without question the latest news conference I've ever had. Thank you. Thank you. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight, and a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people, and we won't stand for it. We will not stand for it.
His speech would set the tone for his final fractious months in office.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We did win this election.
None of us had any way of knowing that night when we made that call for Arizona that it would become the first brick in this enormous wall of deception. It's the worst thing that a president has done in my lifetime, certainly.
Worse than Watergate.
Oh, far worse than Watergate.
It was after election night that the problems began.
I came home to Washington on the Saturday after the election, content that we had shot the rapids, everything was okay, and that things would go and heal themselves now, because there was no way that anybody could think that Donald Trump had really won the election.
The mood swing came quickly.
I'm getting tweets sent to me, and then a US senator is on the radio show calling for me to be fired. And I'm like, what is going on here? What is wrong with you people? There's this river of hate out there over this call. Like, I made Arizona vote for Joe Biden.
We have not yet called this election. You know why? Because it's not over. There are
Fox's ratings plunged as Trump loyalists turned off in disgust and switched to rival far-right networks.
Trump is on a mission to clean up the corruption in Washington.
That just gave the green light to OAN and Newsmax to go hardcore, totally in for Trump. And if you look at the ratings just from that particular week, you will see that the 7 p.m. Eastern Time show on Newsmax came close or did beat the 7 p.m. Eastern show on Fox News. I mean, that was completely unheard of. And I guarantee you that that sent a shockwave inside of Fox News.
It shows that the Arizona call was enough of a shock to the overall corporation that Rupert Murdoch decided, I need to do something myself here about this. And he gets his hands dirty at this moment and really takes a more hands-on role for what's going on inside Fox.
To satisfy the mob, the Murdochs needed scapegoats. They chose the two senior journalists on the election decision desk. Fox News' managing editor in Washington was forced to retire. Chris Steiwald was sacked.
Well, it was as a father, it was very challenging because I did not know how I was going to tell my sons that I was unemployed. Because, you know, you're just making me think about how I felt thinking about having to tell my kids. And it was a terrible feeling of humiliation that you would have to tell your kids that you lost your job.
The clear message when the guys who made the right call on election night get fired in the aftermath because people are complaining. The clear message is we're not going to try to tell people what they don't want to hear. We're going to tell them what they do want to hear.
The amount of ignorance and the amount of willful ignorance was concerning and disappointing, and a foretaste of what was to come.
On Saturday, Fox News sent us a statement saying the use of former disgruntled employees, some of whom were not part of the company during our coverage of the US presidential election and its aftermath, completely discredits any credibility of this program. We stand by our coverage with our millions of viewers who make us the most watched cable television network. Next week, how Fox News bought, sold, and amplified Donald Trump's big lie.
The secret that Trump knows is if you're going to lie, go big, right? Don't waste your time on niggling little tiny prevarications. Go big. And then what you do is you wait for the obsequious toads to come along and rationalize your lie.
And now, truth is going on trial as the Murdochs face dramatic legal consequences.
These are the simple facts of... No, we're done. I'm sorry.
These are facts.
I'm sorry.
These are facts.
I'm not going to talk about matters in litigation.
There's no need for us to cease.
Thank you very much.
But these
But
are
we're
also
done.
very basic facts that we're dealing
Turn
with.
the camera off. We're done.
Sydney, I think we should talk.